Hello, and welcome back to Too Lazy to Read. Today we're kicking off a new long-form deep dive series where we spend about 40 minutes unpacking a single important book. That's right, for those too lazy to read, we're now doing the reading and the heavy explaining for you. I'm your host, and joining me is our resident curious mind, Elizabeth.
Hi everyone, I'll be chiming in with questions, occasional witty banter, and making sure our narrator doesn't turn this into a snooze-fest lecture.
In this episode, we're diving deep into Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddimah, a monumental work often called the first book on sociology, historiography, economics, and more. Ibn Khaldun was a 14th century scholar who basically tried to explain how human civilizations rise, fall, and what makes them tick. If you've never heard of him, don't worry. By the end of this, you'll not only know who he is, but you might even catch yourself applying his ideas to modern life, with a dash of our sarcasm, of course.
We'll break it down chapter by chapter, covering his key ideas and making them totally understandable and slightly entertaining. Think of it as a podcast talk between friends, if one friend was a history nerd and the other was keeping it real.
The Muqaddimah literally means the introduction. It was meant as the introduction to Ibn Khaldun's grand history of the world, but it's become way more famous than the rest of that history. Why? Because in it, he basically invents a new way to study history and society. This book is dense. It spans philosophy, economics, education, politics, even climate science, medieval style. We're going to make it approachable.
Buckle up, because we're about to time travel to the 14th century Maghreb, North Africa, meet our guide Ibn Khaldun, and explore how his ideas might just help explain everything from the fall of ancient empires to maybe your declining interest in that show by season 5. Let's get started.
So who was Ibn Khaldun? To understand the Muqaddimah, it helps to know a bit about Ibn Khaldun himself. He was born in 1332 in what is today Tunisia. This was a time and place of constant upheaval. Think plagues. The Black Death hit during his childhood. Palace intrigues and rival dynasties popping up and toppling each other across North Africa. Ibn Khaldun came from an educated family, got a top-notch Islamic education, Quran, law, theology, the works. And by his 20s, he was already working in the courts of rulers as a sort of scholar bureaucrat.
So he was like a young hotshot minister/scholar?
Kind of, yes. He served various kings and sultans in North Africa and even Islamic Spain, Andalusia. But politics back then were cutthroat. Imagine Game of Thrones, but with real swords and no dragons. Ibn Khaldun got caught in the political rivalries, was jailed at one point, went into exile, switched loyalties a few times. Basically, he had a front-row seat to political chaos. This gave him first-hand insight into how power works and why governments rise and fall, experiences that directly fed into his theories.
He was also around during the tail end of the medieval Islamic Golden Age, right? Lots of scholarship and science in the air?
Exactly. He was well versed in the knowledge of his time and even skeptical of some of it. Eventually, fed up with political life, Ibn Khaldun retreated to a remote fortress in 1375. Picture him up in a lonely castle, finally some peace and quiet, deciding to write it all down. In 1377, he produced the Muqaddimah as the introduction to his planned world history. Little did he know, this intro was the real masterpiece.
Fun fact, he later moved to Cairo, became a judge, and surprise twist met the conqueror Timur, Tamerlane. During the siege of Damascus in 1401, they had a famous conversation. Apparently, Ibn Khaldun wowed Timur with his knowledge and even dropped a hefty history book on him as a gift.
That's right. He was such a big deal that one of history's fiercest conquerors invited him for chats about history. Ibn Khaldun died in 1406 in Cairo, having left behind ideas far ahead of his time. Think about it. A guy from the 14th century outlining